CL from at DaRundown South on Twitter. You follow me at CL Many been on Twitter. Do a lot of sports, business, hip hop, music in general. But now I'm just trying to bring everything together. So that's a little bit about me. I guess we I don't know what's that. Clockwise. Anthony, go ahead and tell a little bit about yourself.
I'm Anthony. I part of the Hip Hop Sports Report team. I started my own little spin-off pod talking about the Knicks. I'm always repping for better or worse. It's the Orange and Blueprint Knicks podcast. Come every so often. It's not as consistent, but whenever there's big news going on with New York, I'm gonna talk about it. Give you some real no spin zone kind of view on it.
So you're basically saying you're not a fan, you being objective.
I mean, I'm not objective by any means, okay. But I'm not like a lot of Knicks fans shoot for the moon or just like dig for the grave all the time. I try and be in the middle about it because there's so much just noise around the Knicks. So right. That's what I try to be.
Got a lot of media outlets, so
there's too many.
Yeah, it's a lot. New York is big in that sense.
Yeah, there's too many mouths to feed, so they gotta like keep stuff going.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I'll feel you on that. Well, where can they find that podcast
at? Where you can always find it on the Hip Hop Sports Report page, and if you go there, you can search for Orange and Blueprint or the Knicks. Anything that you look for there, it'll come up, no problems.
That's a bet, man. All right. Last but not least, boy Jay Hicks. Finally see him face to face. We did about 3 podcasts already.
Yeah, we done did a few. We did a few for sure. I hear an echo on my sound too when I hear myself talk. I don't know what that is, but okay. Now it went away.
All right.
I think it went away. Yeah. I think we straight now. But yeah, we've done quite a few podcasts, so we know we had to get back this year. But yeah, Jay Hicks. Y'all know me from the Hip Hop Sports Report podcast and from hiphopsportsreport.com, of course. And obviously, we've been doing the site for going on 4 years. It'll be 4 years next month, actually. So, yeah, the site's been around for a minute. And I know it's 4 years next month because our first piece was about the 2012 Olympic Games. So that's all I know is 4 years is coming up. We have to do something special for the anniversary. So we'll figure something out for that. But, yeah, and the podcast, Hip Hop Sports Report podcast, the preseason podcast of the year, as it's known, from coast to coast, across many lands. You know what I mean? We've been doing that for about almost 3 years, something like that. So y'all know me from there. And of course, like I said, or like Anthony said, I should say, the Hip Hop Sports Report podcast has kind of branched off into also the Orange and Blueprint podcast. So we house both within our podcast network, so to speak. So if you go to Hip Hop Sports Report, you can find both the preseason podcast of the year and, of course, the Orange and Blueprint podcast. We're also on iTunes and on Stitcher Radio, so you can find both of the podcasts there also.
Okay, that's what's up, man. And y'all can always get the Rundown South on all those platforms. You on Google Play?
We just got on Google Play, but I gotta straighten some stuff out with it. So like we're there, but I don't know if it's up and running yet or what it looks like yet. But I know we're getting there for sure.
All right, that's a bet.
We did get approved though, so that's like half the battle, you know?
Yeah. That's what I was waiting on, just to get my approval, and then I was in there. And I don't know if that had to do with me using like FeedBurner all the time, but I'm glad I already kind of had it embedded with Google, so kind of just slid over.
Yeah.
But all right, now we got everybody introduced. So I don't know, where should we begin? Should we talk about your NBA champion Cleveland Cavaliers?
They're not my NBA champion Cleveland Cavaliers. They're our NBA champion Cleveland Cavaliers. It's everybody's champions. They're the champions of the world, baby. You know?
All right. Well, now, what do you think? Does this solidify LeBron as probably going on to be like, if not the greatest, the second greatest player to come in the NBA?
Well, I don't think it solidified anything really. Like, I think it already. I think he was already one of the top 10 players ever before the series started. So I don't think that really changed. I think what it did do was, in the eyes of most people, it did allow him to vault himself into a company of even greater players. So maybe he went from top 10 to top 5. To me, it didn't change my opinion of him that much. But in the eyes of most people, yeah, I would say that it kind of vaulted him a little bit higher up. I mean, unless you want to argue aesthetics of the game and just as far as how their games compare to one another, I think he's already past Kobe Bryant. And that's something I already wrote about on hiphopsportsreport.com, is that what LeBron accomplished in the finals was unlike anything that we've ever seen from Kobe or Michael Jordan. Now, that doesn't mean he's better than Michael Jordan, but what it means is that Michael Jordan was never in a situation where he had to come back from a 3-1 deficit in the finals. And that's not a knock, because that means, his team was taking care of business. So that's a testament to Mike and his greatness. But at the same time, we saw LeBron in a place where we've never seen Jordan or Kobe before and dig themselves out of that hole. And doing it in the way that he did it, with the back-to-back 41-point games, the triple-double in Game 7, the block on Iguodala, shutting down Steph Curry, taking the heat from the Golden State players in the media and their families in the media and on social media, wives and fathers of players and stuff like that. We've never seen anything like that. And LeBron vanquished all that in about 5 days. You know what I mean? And we've never seen that before. So I don't know that he's going to wind up being the second greatest player of all time, but I think it's within reach. I think being better than Michael Jordan is within reach. And I'm not even sure that Michael Jordan is the case closed greatest player of all time either. I think that can be debated. And I know my man Anthony feels very strongly that Michael Jordan is not the greatest player of all time. I'll let him dive into that if we have time. That might take about 40 minutes of him trashing.
Let's go there right now.
Trashing Jordan.
Because, you a Knicks fan, so I don't expect you to be the biggest Michael Jordan fan to begin with. But go ahead. I don't even know where to start. So
okay.
Like, are you just hate hard to prove?
Yes. I hate all day, every day on Michael Jordan. It pleases me to kind of trash this man for the abhorrent human being that he is. I mean, the guy, he's a horrible teammate. He is a guy who gets his coaches fired. He tarnished his legacy by hanging it around too long. He gambled on the game and had to get retired by David Stern to save the league, and some other stuff that I don't like saying on camera. And he's a person that I just can't stand. He's a guy who possibly set back the beauty of the game by making everyone think they can only take step back jumpers.
He's the godfather of hero ball.
Exactly. I mean, he's basically responsible for the headache that was J.R. Smith until he got under LeBron's tutelage and took all that Michael Jordan BS out of him and then made him a viable player in the NBA. And I mean, if there's anything I can say about Michael Jordan that's positive, is that the Charlotte Hornets are not a good basketball team, and that pleases me. And you know what? He keeps a lot of shoe retailers with jobs. So, I'm always about things that keep people employed. But that's about it. I hate everything about that dude.
Tell us how you really feel.
I'm glad I got the time to do it because I haven't ranted about him in about 3 days to other people.
Wow. So is it like on your schedule to make sure you get at least one out every week?
You got to trash him like at least once every few days.
It's a regular thing. It's a regular thing, and people don't understand. But you got to have your principles, and one of mine is hating on Michael Jordan. I don't make no apologies.
Well, there are some stories out there too, of, like you said, not just Jordan being a bad teammate, like punching out Steve Kerr in practice or whatever, but also just him being a bad person in person, like Chameleonaire. There's the Chameleonaire story, which is everybody knows that story by now, and I know people that have run across Michael Jordan and say, man, that dude is a jerk, man. Like, I know people that have told me that, based on their interactions with him. So, I mean, now in his defense, if I were as rich and famous as Michael Jordan, if I've lived the life that Michael Jordan has lived the last 30 to 35 years, I don't know how well I would be adapting to that lifestyle either. Who's to say that I wouldn't be a jerk too? I don't know. But what I do know is that all indications seem to point to Michael Jordan being an a-hole. And,
that's fair enough.
And that's got nothing to do with his game on the court. That's got nothing to do with his game on the court. So I don't know if Anthony can separate the two. But
I choose not to. I choose not to. I choose not to. I'm sorry.
It's all good now. Y'all heard about that the Red Man story at the Def Jam party?
I don't know if I heard that one.
Well,
what's that?
Apparently, like he got invited there. I guess he was a guest of like one of the like executives that was running Def Jam at the time, and basically, like he dissed Redman right there on the spot.
Oh, you know, I think I did hear that story. I think I did hear that story actually. Yeah.
And like that was like, man, again? It's like how many rappers did Michael Jordan diss in his whole time? Like that's a lot of disrespect for hip hop and somebody who has or a culture that is
Michael Jordan listens to soft rock. I don't know if you knew that. Michael Jordan listens to 80s hair metal or something like that. That's what he.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me because, like, if you look how he dressed like an old white dude that that golfs all the time. So I wouldn't put it past him.
What happened to our heroes, man? Like Jordan used to be.
I mean, you would think a dude with such fly shoes would know how to dress.
That's what I'm saying. Like what? And this is like we came up in the Jordan era, so it's kind of like and a lot of us, maybe not Anthony, but a lot of us still rock the sneakers and stuff. And like you said, like the classic ones. I don't know what happened to him that, like you said, he can't even pick out a decent pair of jeans anymore. And then you look at cats like Hove. Like I don't know what happened with Hove. Like Hove used to be the coolest man on the planet, and
Hove got married and had babies. Like he's just not the same dude.
Anthony and I got married and had babies too, so I don't know what that. I don't know.
But see, it's different for us because we're not bringing out the influence like Jay-Z is,
right?
Because like if you think about 2016, if you go back like 10 years, you was holding on to every Jay-Z lyric that came out because they was few and far between. It ain't the same no more.
No.
Now he the dude that's like kissing on Beyonce feet in the Lemonade video. It's not the same guy.
What did you think of any of his recent music? So I know Hov he got the song with Future, he's got the song with Pusha T, he's got his verse on the All the Way Up remix, which I talked about on the podcast recently, and then he's got this new record that came out just the other day in the wake of all the shootings that happened this past week. Did you hear any of those? What did you think of those?
I've heard some of them. I haven't heard the new one because I just purposely just been off Twitter for a little bit. But I don't know, man. I don't know about it this time. I was real. I was there before Holy Grail dropped. You know, I was thinking, okay, he's back in the studio. He in Hawaii with all the boys. This might be something epic. But, oof. It's like, if you think about the last album that he did, the best two songs was only like a minute and a half. You know, Beach is Better is probably the best song on there. And
they teased us and said that he was going to put out like the rest of that song, and it never came.
Well, right. Mike Will said he wasn't going to do nothing else. Because Mike Will was like, you're not going to finish it? He was like, nah, sometimes that's just it. Like, can't do no respect it. He was like, all right.
I know Mike Will didn't care as long as he got his money. You know,
right.
He got paid for a full track. He didn't get paid for 45 seconds of a song. But
exactly. You get production credit, you get all the title stream money, all that.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. I don't know, man. I worry for Jay-Z. Jay-Z's my favorite rapper. He's been my favorite rapper since Hard Knock Life, probably in 1998. You know what I'm saying? And
oh God.
And that was so long ago. I know. That was a long time ago. That was almost 20 years ago.
Think about it.
That was almost 20. So I don't know. I guess, rappers they're in a new lane now because we've never seen rap age before. You know what I mean? We've never seen rappers that are still relevant into their 40s and 50s or whatever. Like there's rappers that are in the public eye, like LL Cool J is like a rapper who's still in the public eye, but that's because he hosts award shows and is on like NCIS or whatever show he's on. Like he doesn't rap anymore. Like Jay-Z still raps or he still wants to, but I don't know what it is, man. I feel like he's in his own head. Like none of these songs that he's put out of late is anything close to what we know and love from Jay-Z. So I kind of feel like he's maybe he's hearing the whispers about people saying that he might be washed up, and maybe he's trying to discover new flows or whatever, and it ain't working. And it pains me to say that.
I think I know what's wrong with Jay, but I want to see what Anthony thinks.
You know how
because you a New York Knicks fan, so I know you all about that whole like.
The thing about it is rap is a young man's game. Hov is not a young man and has not been a young man for a while.
Factually correct.
And that's just the way it is. We've never seen rap age, but Jay-Z's basically aged as a rapper probably as best as someone can, because I mean we've talked me and Justin and the other our other teammate Kenny kind of talked offline about how the basic timeline of a rap artist's career is the come up, and the rap is the come up. That first album is an entire life of material. That second one is basically that plus the climbing the ladder to being the man. The third one, if you get that far, is being a man. And that's where people always fall off, because so much of hip hop is about the struggle. Jay-Z has been so far removed from the struggle that it's like, you aren't supposed to be here. And then that was like maybe 10 years ago.
I think some of the criticism is unfair too. Like, say what you will about his lyricism, about, the rhyme structure, but just as far as his subject matter, like people get on him all the time about his content. And, Jay would be
that's a big important part of being a rapper is your content.
Yeah, but like people like Jay will be the first one to tell you, like, I forget the line exactly, but the line where he said, y'all want to hear old Hov, go buy my old albums. You know what I'm saying? Right. And it's just like people expect either him to rap about dope, but it's like he can't rap about the dope game like that often, because like you said, he's far removed from just being the struggle as far as an artist is concerned, Anthony. The dope game, like Hov that used to move weight was like in the late 80s, early 90s. So we're talking like 25 years ago. Like he can't keep living off those stories. You know what I mean? He's rapped about all of them. Like we done heard it all. How he went down south and, he was in the home of the Terrapins, got a dirt cheap for them. Plus if they were short with cheese, I could work with them. Like we heard all those stories before. So now he's rapping about, art in his house, and he's rapping about his family, and he's rapping about his business ventures and Rock Nation Sports, signing contracts, signing athletes, and buying a piece of the Brooklyn Nets and all this stuff, and moving the team back to Brooklyn. Like, that's what he's rapping about. But then people criticize him for that, and they say, like, okay, well, we're tired of hearing about how much stuff you have. Like, you got enough stuff. We're tired of hearing about it. So it's kind of like, well, he can't rap about his past, and he can't rap about the present. So what is he supposed to rap about that's going to satiate the rap audience? Like, there's no middle ground for him, and I kind of feel for him on that.
Okay, all right. So let's see. I probably got like three things all together, because Anthony made a great point with Jay-Z is basically 10 years past his expiration date. His rap. He's supposed to be spoiled milk that got thrown out. And he's still around. He's still fresh. He's still whole. And the reason that he does it is because he continues to like reinvent himself. And that's part of the thing that always keep people relevant. It's basically the Diddy blueprint. Like every time he changed names, it's a different swag.
Snoop did it too.
Make it mix. Yeah, Snoop does it too.
Snoop changed more than anybody, because Snoop was like, first he was down with No Limit when No Limit was hot. Then he's down with like, whatever's hot at the moment. When Neptunes was hot, he was down with the Neptunes. Like Snoop is a chameleon.
Snoop was on trial for murder.
That's true. And see, but I think Snoop's reinvention is a little different. He just kind of more or less just branded like the Snoop Dogg, experience when it comes to everything. That's more, he more had an evolution But what I'm talking about with Jay-Z and like with Diddy is reinvention. You know, at first when he came out, it was the Reasonable Doubt. It was this. It's I guess you could say like Jay-Z is known for persona rap. So when he came out, Reasonable Doubt, it was all fur coats, this mob ties type stuff.
Mafioso rap.
Yeah, it was all on that dope stuff. And then like when you get Hard Knock Life, that's when you really get that straight out of Brooklyn Jay-Z type flow. And then you got him into like the big pimping era to where it's like, oh yeah, I'm popping now. All your hoes come fool with me. And then he kind of moved on into Sean Carter. Then he was the CEO. Now he's the CEO of his own thing, Family Man, and so on and so forth. And the thing about it is the person that Jay-Z isn't as interesting as the other personas that he was previously. And it really doesn't give him a lot to rap about that he hasn't already said. So the thing I think Jay-Z has to do is really just get in tune with the art side of things. Really like looking at like his best work since this early stuff is American Gangster. And that was because it was a concept. It was, taking on the Frank Lucas persona and really crafting out basically like a movie of words. And I still play American Gangster over anything else Jay-Z done put out for the last 10 years. You know, probably up until like Black Album. So if he wanted to like start doing stuff like that, get into these like, kind of like I said, these personas and just really identify some way, I think he could really make a comeback. But doing this stuff with Future, I got him keys. Like that's not Jay-Z.
No, not.
That's not him. I was so disappointed because on paper it sounds real good. I'm like, okay, Jay-Z betting the game, rocking with Future. Okay, 2016, let's turn up. We're gonna have Jay-Z in the club in Atlanta now. I was ready.
I mean, I've written about that too, but like about the concept of the guy who's like Jay-Z, who we all put on a pedestal, right, as being one of the greatest to ever do it. And collaborating with these up and coming artists. Not that Future's like exactly up and coming, because Future's been on the scene for at least like a good 5 years. But you know what I mean? Like whoever's the hot artist at the moment, like that is a mutually beneficial relationship when that tends to happen. People tend to look at it as like, oh, this new cat got a cosign from Jay-Z. Well, Jay-Z's benefiting from that too because it's keeping him relevant. So he's able to collab with Future. He did it with, like, you look at the Blueprint 3, which, personally, I like the Blueprint 3 better than American Gangster, but
it was good.
But
Blueprint 3 was
yeah,
good.
but I mean, like if you look at Blueprint 3, he collaborated with Drake and Kid Cudi on that record, and that was like 2009, and J. Cole. So that was like 2009, and we got Drake with Drake.
Drake's song was whack though.
Yeah, it was horrible. It was beyond horrible. But that's not the point. The point is that they tried, right? So we had Jay with Drake, Kid Cudi, and J. Cole all on the same album in 2009. So we've seen Jay-Z try to do this. Like he still tries to reach out to these cats that are younger to try to keep himself relevant. But I think at the end of the day, as long as he's rhyming and the raps are dope, I think people are still going to accept it. But like you said, that I got the keys, and he's trying to rap over that kind of cadence. And I just think he's kind of reaching, and I'm Josh Norman on the corner. I ain't normal, nigga. It's like, it just didn't do nothing for me. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's okay, but we're so like the expectations that Jay-Z has laid out for everybody has, it's so far beyond just okay for all these years. Like we maybe hold him to an unrealistic expectation at this point, especially given the fact that he's literally about to be 50 years old in like 2 years.
Okay.
He's in a no-win situation. Mm-hmm. Like at this point, he's literally a kingmaker. That J. Cole record you talked about basically put J. Cole I don't want to say on the map, but I mean it opened him up to like a much wider.
I would say it put him on the map.
Okay, well, good, because I like to be right. I was a little nervous about saying that, but you know what? Let's go with it. It put him on the map.
It kind of did. It's a big look.
But so that he's got J. Cole as a person he introduced to the world, so to speak. He's got Kanye West, who is maybe the 3 or 4 biggest musical artists on the planet right now. He's got Rihanna. Like the things that he's done from the business standpoint, from introducing, different artists, bringing different artists to the next level. I mean, those are the things that he can do. But if he keeps jumping on stuff, like there's a little bit of the way Drake does that with any new coming up, and it seems cool, but it's also like, well, Drake, you just trying to stay in the limelight, and that may be okay for Drake because he's at being the man right now. Jay-Z, it's like everything is so much more expected of him. He can't have, like, his rhymes are just average, but because it's him, average ain't good enough. But I don't want to hear about his 22 cars, and I don't want to hear all the time about how fine Beyonce is. And there's no winning for Jay-Z.
Nah.
Except for he never loses. So it's just like
he might be losing a title right now. I don't know.
Nah, bro.
Maybe.
Bro,
his losing will be $50 million.
My bad. Go. I'm about to say. I don't think he's losing on a title because you kind of have to know
when to hold him and when to fold him.
Not really. But no, you gotta just looking at how the tech thing is. It's more about just growing the business to sell. Somebody's going to buy a title. It'll probably be Apple or it'll be Google or Twitter or somebody. I would put a bet on Twitter because they need to do something that's really going to make some bread. But the fact that he's bringing that exclusive content straight from the artists themselves, streaming in these live concerts, you got the Collie Grove live at the Tabernacle, Lil Wayne and 2 Chainz exclusively on Tidal. Like, to me, there's something there that I always said that would be the difference in all these streaming services. It just so happened Jay-Z got on it. But I'll say this, as far as with him doing new music, I think what we expect is when people get on the song with Jay-Z, we expect them to step up to Jay-Z's level, not Jay-Z step down to their level. Because if you look at any of the Jay-Z like remix versions, like the Young Jeezy, went dumb on it. 2 up, matter of fact. It was the it might have been 3. Was it Put On? Dope Boys Go Crazy.
That was a good one.
It was one more, but I mean, it's a trend. It's just like kind of like with like Lil Wayne. If you listen to anything Lil Wayne does, listen to the songs that he does with Euro, because I guarantee you, if Euro's on that song, you gonna get the best Lil Wayne. He ain't no joke right there. But other than that, he might just be barfing on a beat and just it sound hot as whatever it is that you just might have heard on radio. But I mean, this whole influencer marketing thing is kind of widespread. It's done a lot in the business world, and it just so happens that in hip hop it's really easy because T.I. does it, Drake does it. You use other people's energy to bring attention to yourself. Just sourcing an audience. I got Young Thug's audience. Let me make sure that they come fooling with me because he got a lot of energy moving right now. So I mean, I can't really knock nobody for it because it's literally like what everybody's doing. It's kind of like what we're doing right now. We collabing, using each other's audiences to bring something a little bit bigger together. So that's my spiel on that.
I want to see Jay-Z on top, man. I don't want to see him struggling. You know what I'm saying? It's like watching like a boxer that been in the ring too long and then they're old man and they can't even speak right anymore. You know what I'm saying? And they slur their speech and stuff like that. Like Jay-Z at this rate, it's going down a sad road is what I'm trying to say. I don't want it to go down that road, man. I want Hov to be on top. I like Hov being the king, man, and it's making the King of New York thing meaningless. You know what I'm saying? Because if he's not the king, I don't know who is. There's nobody else that's there to ready to take the throne right now. I don't think Designer is going to take the throne from Jay-Z. So, you know what I'm saying? So, I don't know.
I don't know about the King of New York, but I know who's the king of hip-hop right now, and it's Drake. So, are y'all up to speed on this Drake Joe Budden thing?
I am. Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
All right. So, for everybody out there that's listening or watching, basically, Drake all but name check Joe Budden in 4 p.m. to Calabasas?
Yeah, that was the record that Budden believed is entirely about him, or 90% about him. which
I mean, he did. He had a few little dabs. When I listened to it, I was like, huh. That was a little slick right there. He just kind of fastball that one through that. But you know, when rappers they say stuff, and we all know like the subliminal dish is one of the instigators of some of the best beef out there. So I'm not surprised. But anyway, Joe Budden goes on, what was that? Pitchfork calls Drake's views uninspired, which I agree with.
That was on his own podcast, I think.
Oh, that was on his podcast. Yeah, so, and I'm like, I'm totally with that. It sounded uninspired. It kind of sounded like, you know, he was piggybacking off Rihanna and just doing what he does best and not really growing sonically. So I guess Drake now took offense to that. And I mean, if you would have asked me, I'd have been like, Drake don't want them problems. And then I heard that making a murder. I was like, Drake don't want them problems. I don't think he can do the same thing he did to Meek Mill to Joe Budden. He's not having it. So where do y'all sit on it? Anthony, do you think Joe Budden is out of line? You think he might be getting too personal? And I guess also to piggyback off of that, do you think that Joe Budden might be going against a brick wall because Drake not going to respond?
Yes and yes. I'm 30. I'll be 31 tomorrow, and I grew up on New York rap. My favorite rapper is Jadakiss. You know, right? Yeah. It just
New York B.
all that. So like, I just completely disrespect the sub tweets and all the other stuff. It doesn't do anything for me. And then the thing that with Joe Budden and Drake is that Drake is doing the best thing now. He's in a no-win situation, no matter if it's real or not. I have my doubts on how real it is from Drake to Budden, or how worthwhile it is it's definitely worthwhile for Budden to Drake, but I don't know how much reality is there. But there's like, they're just not in the same weight class, you know, popularity wise. I don't want to, it's like watching, I don't know, Mike Tyson fight like Butterbean. Like, I don't want to watch either that. I don't care.
They're both champions though, Anthony. What are you talking about?
Right.
I gotta call my dad now. Bring back memories. Agree. But I get you on that. I think it's a little sad that they're not on the same level, because this is a real challenge. Like, to me, Meek Mill is one thing, but Joe Budden, like, that dude got bars. And I don't think Drake, with his ghost-written lyrics, can even comprehend and get close to what Joe Budden is capable of. I mean, what about you, Jay? So
you're right about Budden being able to rap. I think Joey can spit, and I think that what's interesting though is that I think his popularity, as you guys pointed out, has never really been there. His approval rating has never been anywhere close to where Drake's is right now, and people have always kind of found reasons to kind of slander Joe Budden, and I think Budden kind of adds fuel to the fire on a lot of occasions, and I think this is one of them. So I'm kind of stepping on a column I got coming out probably later today about this very topic, but. Yeah, nice. So, but the thing is like and Anthony pointed it out. Like, this is much more beneficial for Joe Budden than it is for Drake. So why would Drake even give Joe Budden the time of day, you know, to address him and put Budden on the map? Like, that's all Budden is looking for, it seems like. Because to me, and I talked about this on the podcast recently, Budden launched his own podcast, and now he actually called himself a podcaster on Twitter the other day. And I'm just thinking, like, bro, you're not a podcaster. You know what I'm saying? Like, you are a rapper who started a podcast. Now, that's great. You know what I mean? But, you know, good for you to do that. But to me, it signifies him raising the white flag on his career to a certain degree, or he's just using the podcast thing strictly as a vehicle to promote his own music. And that's what it feels like. I watched a video where he had a video podcast going of his reaction to views. And even though I kind of agree with what he said, he was so animated on that podcast trashing views, it really just felt forced. Like, the whole thing seemed like it was just a ploy to try to coax Drake into some kind of beef. And it makes sense because Drake has shown in the past that he's willing to get into a beef. And he's also the biggest star in the game right now. He's been number one on the Billboard charts for like 10 straight weeks. So it makes sense to go at Drake. And then if you can get him to actually respond to you, now all of a sudden you got more podcast listeners. Now you got more people interested in what Joey's talking about. Now you get brought back on Love and Hip Hop New York season 25. You know what I'm saying? Like all those things, all those ancillary pieces of Joe Budden's career, he's looking to advance. Drake can do that for him. And it doesn't make any sense for Drake to even acknowledge it. But to me, Drake has shown a willingness to acknowledge people directly in the past. We saw it last summer. So why would Drake subliminally take shots at Joe Budden, but then not directly take shots at Joe Budden? You know what I'm saying? Like Joe Budden's making it sound like, oh, he's scared. He, this ain't Meek Mill. You know what I'm saying? I'm a different breed or whatever. And to me, it's just like, bruh, like he would take shots at you if he had a legitimate reason to be upset with you. But clearly, you took 4 p.m. at Calabasas and tried to make it all about you. And now you're going on these Twitter rants like you did last night about Drake. And the whole thing just feels forced, man. Like he's so starved for attention. It's just sad and depressing, man. Like Budden is better than this. He can rhyme, like you said, Slaughterhouse and all that stuff. Like Budden can really rap. Like, why are you subjecting yourself to this and making yourself look pathetic? I don't understand it.
Well, I mean, there is the whole Tahir thing, and that always causes feelings to somebody. Anytime females get involved into a situation, well, really it's a couple, it's either female or money or just
So are we confirming that Drake smashed Tahiri? Is that what we're confirming right now?
I mean, I will confirm that on the Making the Murder Part 1. He did a whole verse about it. So it's got to be something there. I don't think he would have put that energy, 16 bars, into, basically calling Drake having his leftovers. I don't think he would have did it unless there was some truth to it. Like, they run in somewhat of the same circles, and I'm sure that shit got back to Joe Budden. So, I mean, it doesn't appear that, he's not crying about this time, because that was a tough time to be supporting Joe Budden. I'm not going to lie. That whole little era where he was just on camera just crying all fucking down, that shit was dead. Like, bro, I was like, I'm trying to tell everybody how dumb you is, Joe. Can you please just stop crying about this shit? But it just comes full circle because he really does put a lot of emotion into his rap. So, I mean, you can really feel Joe when he does stuff like this. So, he is going up against a brick wall because Drake getting Apple. Like, Joe Budden ain't nowhere near that.
No.
It's so sad because I would love to hear Drake try Joe Budden and let people decide, oh, this is what it is. But, we in a different time period. You can really say stuff and people don't really care because there's so much other stuff going on out there.
Like you said, man, it's two different weight classes. It doesn't really benefit Drake to respond in any way. You know what I'm saying? Like I mean, if I was advising him, I'd be like, respond for what? Right. I mean, what does he have to prove by dissing Joe Budden? He's got, I mean, we already know Drake can rhyme, albeit, some of it may be, like you said, some writtens or some ghost writtens or whatever, but people don't seem to mind and people don't seem to care about that sort of thing. So Drake, we know he can rhyme. We know he can handle himself appropriately in a beef setting. So what does he have to prove on that front? And why does he have to give Joe Budden that shine? It reminded me of a basketball analogy, which is actually another rap analogy. So like when Deshaun Stevenson was throwing shade at LeBron and LeBron said, man, that's like Jay-Z responding to Soulja Boy.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was Deshaun Stevenson for the Wizards. Yeah. And he said it's like Jay-Z responding to Soulja Boy. Like, I'm not gonna do that. Like, for what? And he was right. And like in a couple of years, Deshaun Stevenson was out of basketball where he belongs. So you know what I'm saying? Like this is what happens when you have people trying to throw rocks at the throne. You know what I mean? Jay even warned Drake about this on the Light Up record together. He said people was, I think what he said was silly rap feuds trying to distract you. Remember that? Like, that's exactly what he said that this would happen. Like, this is what's happening. This is a silly rap feud trying to distract Drake when he's over here making millions and holding meetings with Tim Cook and having the #1 album in the country for 10 weeks in a row. And you got this guy, you know, like I said, Joe Budden is a respected lyricist in most circles, but I mean, he's just not on Drake's level from a popularity standpoint. And so it just would be silly for him to come back with anything, I think.
It's tough, man. See, I'm an old school hip hop fan, so to speak. You know, I'm used to you coming in on a battle rap. Like, even if you didn't actually say the dude's name, if it was just like a whole track of subliminal distance, you know, just like show me you got that dog in you to go in the booth and rip off like 60 bars about Joe Budden. I just want to see you capable. Like, it doesn't actually have to mean anything. I just want to see it. You know, and that's just me as a rap fan at the core.
We know Drake's not that guy though. Like if he was gonna come out like, oh, I would do this, I'm gonna do that, we would just be like, no, you're not. No, you're not. And so I mean, he would just lose on that route. Otherwise, he could just make jokes about him crying or whatever. And we already know that, but then Drake cries on all his albums. So it's like,
point well taken.
I mean, there's just no reason to do it. And then probably the majority of people that, you know, buy Drake albums don't know who Joe Budden is. And so it's like, why introduce them to something that they don't care about, and then you don't care about it either, just to make everyone know that you can address him or not. You know, there's no good motivation to do it, especially after he already destroyed Meek Mill's career. So,
and we live in a different time too, man. So back to back last summer was fun, but I mean, like, in the pantheon of like great diss records, like, that was not the most, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was not the greatest diss record we've ever heard, right? Like, I mean, I think we can all agree on that. It was cool. And it was good for what it did, and it still embarrassed Meek Mill, but like, it wasn't like the greatest diss record of all time. But
do we have a consensus of the greatest diss record of all time? Does anybody have any disagreements?
So the ones that immediately come to mind are the ones that probably immediately come to everybody's mind. So No Vaseline. No Vaseline. Number one has got to be either No Vaseline, Ether, or Hit 'Em Up, maybe. But I mean, you know,
Ether is the one that kind of resonates for me the most.
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree with that about, like, Ether. Ether was bad.
I'm all in. Like, all my chips were pushed to the table. Give me Ether as the #1 diss song of all time. Like, I know what you're saying. Like, No Vaseline went hard. Like, even when you listening to it, when you watch the Straight Outta Compton movie, you be like, ugh, you like, Q gave him something vicious, but that
Q was not to be trifled with. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, talk about transformations.
No kidding.
So
right?
Enough, man.
I mean,
he wasn't never that lifestyle. No way. If you see from the movie, he was just the guy that knew how to put it together the best.
And the one thing I'll say about No Vaseline, though, and to a lesser extent, Hit 'Em Up, but more so No Vaseline, is like, that record was a little before my time. So, like, you know, when it came out, I wasn't checking for it when it came out. Let's put it that way. You know what I'm saying? But I was definitely checking for Ether when Ether dropped. Like, that was right in my wheelhouse coming of age. You know what I'm saying? And so I have a different appreciation for it. If we brought, like, one of my cousins on the podcast that's a little older than me, they might have a different spin on it. You know what I'm saying? Because at that time, No Vaseline was vicious. You know what I'm saying? So I think you can make an argument for any of those records, but I don't have any. CL, I'm not gonna judge you at all for pushing all your chips in on Ether. No, I will not. That first line of the record, where Nas says, "East, west, north, south, flossed out, greedy. I embrace y'all with napalm, no guts, blow it up, left chest, face gone." Oh my god. Oh my god. How could Nas be garbage? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my gosh. To this day, you're right. I mean, so yeah, I've got no beef with putting Ether number one, but I will say though that I always felt that the Takeover kind of got overlooked because he only dedicated one verse to Nas on the Takeover, and then Ether is the one that's compared to it, but he put like a whole 5-minute record together on Ether. So you compare those two, and it's like, well, if Jay-Z had decided to put a whole 5 minutes together on the first blow, then maybe we would have looked at Takeover differently. But that's. I mean, I do.
Right there between Super Ugly and the Takeover, you got 4 minutes, but they still ain't shit compared.
I remember Super Ugly, and he went at him again on Blueprint 2 on that one record. I forget the name of the record, but he went at him again on Blueprint 2. But you're probably right. You're probably right.
I remember, and this is, I mean, there was before Twitter, before Facebook or whatever, and it was like listening to the radio, just like the local, chump DJs. Jay-Z lost. Can you believe it? Jay-Z lost. And it was just like, it was so big and it was so definitive. And, it was just a space and time. Like, Ether is, to me, is hands down the best diss record ever.
It almost sounded like in that moment, Nas was actually LeBron James going up against the Warriors. Because if you look at it, like Jay-Z had the whole team, State Property, Neil, the whole 9 beat single, and it was killing the game.
I think that's how it started too. Wasn't it like it was a Bleak Nas thing or something at first, and it escalated?
Yeah.
So Memphis Bleak was like the Klay Thompson of the situation. You know what I'm saying? Saying like, I guess he's in his feelings. I guess his feelings is hurt. You know what I'm saying? And then
Draymond. He was more like Draymond in that situation.
your boy from Saginaw.
Yeah, that's my homie, but we don't co-sign everything he do, but that's the dude though. Shout out Sag Nasty.
We gonna get into this free agency talk while we on the Warriors?
I'm about to say, if we got time, we can finally get to it since we did kind of just bump into some sports right there. Now, because I was going to begin by going with Kevin Durant going to the Warriors that everybody has been talking about, because I'm still like, how is anybody going to win? I don't understand, like, how they not going to go 82-0?
I can tell you right now. I can tell you.
They got to. I'll jump in. I know exactly what you.
Go ahead.
I know what you're gonna say, Justin.
Yeah.
They've got to play the New York Knicks twice this year. That's what you was gonna say. I got you right there, dog. Don't even worry about
80-2. 80-2. This is the D-Rose Porzingis era. You know about it, right?
Lativian gangbanger.
Right. The Lativian gangbanger. Right. The zinger.
Hey, bro, that picture with him with them cornrows just told me everything I needed to know about Kristaps Porzingis.
He's real.
World star.
He's real deal Holyfield, man. Right. He's real deal. I rock with Porzingis, man. I don't know about the rest of the Knicks roster, but I rock with Porzingis. There's not a lot to dislike about him right now, aside from the fact that he works for James Dolan.
Yeah. You can't pick your bosses.
No, that's true.
Yes, you can, but
just pray for him.
Right. That's all we can do. But so here's my take on the Warriors. And again, it's all on the website if y'all want to check it out, hiphopsportsreport.com.
You be on it. I gotta get like you, man.
Hey, I did a little radio back in the day. So, you get used to plugging stuff certain times, you know what I'm saying? You gotta plug, when you hit the top of the hour, you gotta plug the station. When if you have a radio guest on, you gotta keep reminding the people who come in and out who the guest is. I got a little bit of experience with that stuff. So, it's all on the website, you know what I'm saying? But we've talked about it before, but I'm going to say it again. The Warriors are not a lock to win the NBA championship next year. And to take it a step further, if you ask me right now to bet the Warriors or the field, I'm taking the field, because history has shown us that these super teams that come together usually don't win it all in the first year. If you want to call the Cavs a super team with Love and Kyrie and LeBron, they didn't win it in the first year. If you wanted to call the you sure? They just won the NBA championship this year.
They won the championship. That wasn't a super team. Kevin Love ain't a super. Nice.
Kevin Love averaged 26 and 12 before he got to Cleveland, though.
Yeah, that's before he got to Cleveland, but then he got to Cleveland, and now he just looked like a dude.
That's his job. He's supposed to do that. That's the same thing Bosh did. They called Miami a super team in 2011 when Bosh came down from Toronto, and Kevin Love put up better numbers in Minnesota than Bosh did in Toronto. So some people looked at, I mean, that's semantics. Some people
debate that a little bit later.
Yeah, I'm saying, but my point is that they didn't win in the first year. Some people, you could even look at the Spurs and say they was a super team when they got LaMarcus Aldridge. Well, they didn't win it all in the first year. You know what I'm saying? But if you want to look at more hardcore examples, you can look at the 2011 Miami Heat. You can look at the 2004 Lakers. None of those teams won it in the first year. There's chemistry issues, man. Like it takes time for those pieces to gel, and when you put a super team together, it's usually at the expense of the rest of the roster. So what happens is even in a year when the cap went up to astronomical proportions, like it did this year, you still have the Golden State Warriors having to jettison the back half of their roster to make room for Kevin Durant. And that was the whole Warriors battle cry, was strength in numbers, right? Strength in numbers. What do we hear after the first two games of the series, the finals? It was all about the Warriors bench. The Cavs ain't got nothing for the Warriors bench. That's all we heard last year in the finals, because the Cavs had two guys injured, and then we had nothing left on the bench. And then it's all about, the Warriors bench is just superior, and they got a deeper team and depth and all that stuff. Well, they've already gotten rid of in fairness to Golden State, they've managed to keep Iguodala, and they have Livingston right now. But they've lost Andrew Bogut, they lost Harrison Barnes, they lost Maurice Spates, they lost Barbosa, they lost McAdoo and Ian Clark. They lost Brandon Rush. They basically lost everybody on the bench, aside from Iguodala and Livingston. So when you consider that, and the fact that, and they lost two starters, and the fact that they were already a great jump shooting kind of a soft team, right? They were pretty soft, right? Except for Draymond. And Bogut, but Bogut's gone. So Draymond's the only guy with any dog in him really on the entire roster. They brought in a 7-foot shooting guard to go with these other shooters that they already had. So they were already the best shooting team of all time. Now they're going to be even a better shooting team, but they didn't improve on the weaknesses that they had. You know what I mean? So yeah, they're going to be, hellacious to deal with on the perimeter, but if the jump shots aren't falling, what do you have? It's the same kind of thing. And they're even softer in the middle now than they were before. So yeah, I definitely don't think that Golden State is a lock to win it all. I don't have a problem with them being the favorite going into the season. Like, if Vegas makes them the favorite, I'm not going to argue that. But the idea that they're just going to roll through everybody and win 5 championships in a row, absolutely not. They might not even be able to keep this team together after next year, because news had just come out this past week that the salary cap for 2017-18 is going to be lower than what was initially expected, and it's going to make it harder for them to keep all those guys together, especially considering that Curry's contract is up next summer, and Durant may have his contract up next summer if he doesn't exercise that player option. So I don't think that they're a lock by any means to win it all. Tell me why I'm wrong. I'm just saying.
I don't know. You got something you want to say, Andy? Because I got a couple of things I know I want to say.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say that they're not saying that they aren't a lock to win it it's just a fundamentally true statement. Anything can happen. They have a lot of changes, especially on that back end. It's not as simple as adding one Kevin Durant to the entire mix and then adding Kevin Durant worth of wins. These are people. This is moving parts and all this kind of stuff. So it's complicated. If they can figure out a way to make it work, which they're a very well-oiled machine, and Kevin Durant, one of his big knocks is that he doesn't take over like people expect him to, or he kind of defers too much. Maybe that is the perfect kind of superstar, elite athlete, elite basketball player to put into a team like the Warriors, but it doesn't solve their issues that they can have with a team that can beat them. But the only team out of the East that can beat them is the Cavs, and all the other teams in the West are also going through certain levels of transition So to say that they may not win a championship is accurate, but I fully expect them to at least reach that Western Conference Finals round with the talent they have.
I look at what the Warriors are doing as kind of like what we talked about with Jay-Z and Diddy. It's reinvention. Basically, the small ball thing took its course. Now, this is not a complete change of, like I said, it's just a reinvention. And because of their strength in numbers, they had a lot of like good, I guess like mid-high level players on their bench, which allowed them to be deep and play all these different lineups and keep people all balanced. The thing that they found out in the finals is their offensive system works. They just need more talent in their best five. And if you
I don't agree with that. I mean, only because. Go ahead.
Check this out. Look at it like this. If you look at the finals, who was open more than
Harrison Barnes?
Harrison Barnes. That's Kevin Durant now. You can't leave that dude. Matter of fact, if you ask me, Kevin Durant's going to be the number one option on offense. And if you decide to double team, which way you going to go? You going to Clay? You going to go Steph? I don't know which way to go. You stuck. And the way they move the ball, it's going to cause mass confusion. And they're just basically going to say, look, you might be able to do some things on offense. You might be able to get a rebound here or there, but you better make every single shot. Because if you let us get it right, we're going to run off with it just like we did last year, except this time we really going to bring it to. I said they're going to average like 115 a game.
Didn't they average 115 a game this year?
Yeah, but when I say that, I want to go more toward like 125, but I got to see it emotion before I can say it. But I think they're going to be like the highest scoring team in NBA history coming next year.
They were one of the highest scoring teams we've ever seen this year. They hit more threes than any team we've ever seen in the history of the league. Steph Curry hit 400 threes. He broke his own record by over 100 threes for threes in the season. Klay Thompson this year, I think, hit the third most threes in a season ever in the history of the NBA. Their offense was unlike anything we've seen before. They were like the 07 Patriots or the 98 Minnesota Vikings, you know what I'm saying, for basketball. But the last 5 minutes of the finals, they didn't score. You know what I'm saying? But the Cavs got stops. It's still about defense when it comes down to the come down at the end of the day. They didn't get better defensively. Now, I'll say that the David West and Zaza Pachulia pickups were decent, but they didn't get better on the defensive end of the floor. And we saw what kind of a liability Stephen Curry is on the defensive end. He's a major liability. And for all the people that think that Russell Westbrook was problematic for Kevin Durant's game, like, oh, Westbrook, he takes too many shots and he doesn't facilitate enough. And now they think that he's going to play with Stephen Curry, that things are just going to magically just work out for Durant. Y'all understand that Stephen Curry takes 20-something shots a game, too. He averaged 30 in the game last year, Stephen Curry did. He led the league in scoring. So now you're adding Durant in with Curry. There's going to be some friction there in terms of who shoots the ball when. Does this guy have enough shots? I don't think Curry is going to just automatically transform into a pass-first point guard. He's not going to be Rondo out there. He's going to be looking for his shots still. And Clay's still going to want his shots, and Draymond's still going to want his shots. So it's going to be a minute for them to work all those kinks out. Now, again, I agree that they'll be one of the last four teams more than likely in the league. Like, they'll make the NBA's Final Four more than likely. But I just don't think that it's a foregone conclusion that they're just going to just roll through everybody, because they already had a 73-win team. They were already 5 minutes away from winning back-to-back titles. They did not need this drastic of a shakeup. And they're adding in one of the 25 to 30 greatest players of all time onto their team. That's a big shakeup. That's we can't underestimate the chemistry piece of that, the ego piece of that. There's a lot of factors at play. And we don't even know how Durant is going to respond to that pressure, because he had quite a few garbage games in the playoffs this year. And he was garbage in Game 6 against the Warriors, where Klay Thompson went off. Had Durant come to play in Game 6, Oklahoma City's in the finals. And if Oklahoma City's in the finals, win or lose, I'd be surprised if Durant still went to Golden State. So, I mean, like, I just don't see it as an open and shut deal that they're just gonna run roughshod over the NBA. Now, I mean, they'll be there, you know what I'm saying? But I just don't think they're gonna just destroy everybody. And I'd be surprised if they won the NBA championship next year.
You'd be surprised.
A little bit, yep.
I would not be surprised at all. Now, this might just be me speaking from like the way I like watching basketball, but the way I see it, if you look at the way Golden State goes about moving the ball, I don't think it's going to be an issue about shots, because if Kevin Durant is initiating the offense, then, I mean, Steph Curry doesn't need the ball in his hands. He just got to get open from threes. Klay Thompson just got to get open.
But what happens when they get open and they don't get the ball?
But why wouldn't they get
Because Durant wants to shoot 25 times a game.
Well, you can let Durant shoot 25 times a game and still get the ball passed out to whoever it needs to get to. I mean, if you think about it, all this is going to do is just make it more efficient. Somebody's going to get a lot of open shots. And if somebody's getting open shots, more than likely they're going to make more of those shots. So what took Steph Curry maybe 20 shots, it might only take him 15 now, because he's going to be open all the time, because you're rolling pick and roll defense over to Kevin Durant. You're looking at Draymond initiate the offense, pick and roll with Durant. And it's like, there's so much confusion that could be going on a given play with those I'd say at least those four. Kevin Durant, Draymond, Steph, and Klay. With those four right there, there's like a limited amount of plays that you can run and pick and roll, double picks, high screen roll, whatever you want to do. There's so many different ways they can thrash people. So yeah, it's going to be tough for everybody out there.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask y'all this. I want Anthony to chime in on this. Why do we always underrate chemistry in sports? How many instances do we have to see where chemistry really does matter? You know what I mean? And we see teams that we didn't think was going to get there, but they had a better team chemistry, or they were a little bit more mature of a team, because I don't think Golden State's the most mature team in the world. I think they showed that in the finals. Why do we tend to underrate those intangible things that really matter in sports, man? Because chemistry is a big deal, and that was part of what made the Warriors special. And I can't say that they destroyed it, because we'll have to see how it plays out, but they definitely tampered with it a lot. You know what I mean? What is the deal with that? Like why can't we just understand that the 2004 Pistons were not the most talented team in the world, but they went to 2 straight finals because they had the perfect chemistry? You know what I'm saying?
Real quick. I'm sorry, man, but let me put it back, because you said chemistry, but look at who was at the meeting. They're the whole team. So everybody's for this move. Like, if you look, Klay don't even have a problem being a number 2. So he's thinking, we got Kevin Durant, I'm going to get even more open shots. They're all in on it. So I'm not worried about the chemistry, because if you look, it was already on the Olympic team, just like the Big Three in Miami. And they talk about it all the time. So I think it's already chemistry there. Go ahead.
The thing about the chemistry is that's always an issue, but at least for me, the way I look at stuff, chemistry is one of those things that you can't know it's there until you see it, and then you really know it when you don't see it. But for the Warriors, it's a thing where, like CL was saying, they have been recruiting this guy all season. They maintained recruiting him probably up until they knew they were going to play them in the playoffs, and then picked it right back up probably right after they were done beating them. And you have to imagine they've considered how that would work the whole time. And Justin, you've talked about the level of hubris they've kind of had forever. I mean, the idea that, you are trying to win a title, but also, as they probably see it, guarantee what they would hope would be their 3rd title by adding Durant in there. I would hope that they've considered what that would look like, logistically. So, but again, it comes back to chemistry. Harrison Barnes played a good role for them, but at least on paper, he's the weak link. And you add Durant in there, who can at least do most of the things that Harrison Barnes does and go from there. So I don't really know how we can determine their chemistry issues until we see them. And I think that's how you always kind of underestimate chemistry problems, because you can't know it until it's like the saying about porn. You don't know it until you see it. And that's what chemistry is. That's how it's just a hard thing to nail down until it's all out the window.
I mean, it's true what y'all saying, because there is a question of how will it all fit? How will everybody make concessions? But I'm 27, so I guess I'm more entrenched in millennial culture than a lot of people my age, or I guess even older than me. But what it is I've seen is just like Kevin Durant looked at where he was at was like Microsoft, and the Warriors was Apple. Apple was getting up with Kevin Durant and saying, "Y'all doing good over there, but you see what we got going on here. You see we cooking up all the top flight stuff over here. We got it. So all you got to do is come add what you bring to the table, and we really gonna take off." And I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. Not to get off into the like, is he wrong for doing what he did, or is he taking the easy route? But
he is, really, which he is. He kind of is. He's kind of trying to. He's trying to.
But I don't think so, because it's because of the culture he came up in. Because me and Kevin Durant are the same age, and I totally get why he went over there. Because when you sitting on the sideline, or when you in the game, and you was up like 15 going in the fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden they come back and now they won by 10. Like, damn, that shit look like fun over there. Like, I think I might want to try some of that. And I mean, they made the pitch, and I really think it's going to be instant chemistry by the time they get out the gate in training camp, because I know how Steve Kerr is, and I know what he likes to do, based on what I see him do in Phoenix. And I'm waiting to see. I'm really anxious to see what that offense is going to look like.
I think Kevin Durant absolutely is trying to take the easy way out. And okay. So once again, it's already written.
I mean, I'm always for taking the easiest way out. He still got to work to get the championship. I mean, they're not gift wrapping it to him.
That's why I say he's trying to take the easy way out. I'm not even saying it's going to be easy, because, like I said, I don't think that they're going to win the title next year. But as it stands today, I think he's attempting to take the easy way out. But as I wrote about on the site, man, Hip Hop Sports Report, Durant is a part of the hierarchy of basketball, and that's a very exclusive club that only the greats of the great players each generation get introduced into. And so when you're of that hierarchy, even though it's hypocritical at times, there's an expectation that you are, as the best player, it's your responsibility to try to elevate your team to a title while you're in your prime. That is your job, And Durant is still in his prime, even though he's been with the organization for 9 years. That's a long time. But he's still in his prime. And the team was still on the brink of getting back to their second finals this year, and maybe would have gotten there had Durant played a little bit better. Fair? And so now the thing is that, LeBron and I are the same age. But I didn't agree with when LeBron went to Miami. I didn't agree with that either. And then now there's a lot of other, details to that, because I'm a Cleveland native, and so there's a lot of other details that go into that.
Because if you look at the job he had before, he was like, "I'm not working here anymore. I don't see nothing wrong with trading the job."
See, but okay, and that's exactly what, not to keep saying this, man, beating the dead horse, but that's exactly what I wrote about, was that people keep looking at it and saying, he's just changing jobs just like any of us would change jobs. But it's not the same thing, because no matter what you do for a living, you could be a carpenter, you could be a farmer, you could be, you can work at, Burger King. Like, nobody is checking for the number one burger flipper in the country. Like, nobody knows who the number one marketing exec is in the country. Nobody knows who the number one farmer is of all time, and nobody cares. But people care about basketball. It's different. People spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars to watch these guys play every day. people go, like look at the TV rights that have come down with the NBA. Look at the ratings. Look at the merchandising. Everything about the NBA is different. Like you can't compare Kevin Durant's job to your job or my job because nobody cares about my job. Like I do my job when I come home, but there's not 20,000 people cheering me on when I drive into the office every day. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not what happens. Like it's just different. And so because we have fans of basketball, people who aren't fans of Burger King, people who aren't fans of, even like Microsoft, like you said, like people aren't really fans of Microsoft. Nobody is paying $100 to watch Microsoft put computer programs together. Like it's different. You know what I'm saying? And because people enjoy basketball as a sport, you therefore have these debates that grow out of that. You know what I mean? Like people go to the barbershop or they get on Blab like we're doing right now and have these discussions about it because we care. You know what I mean? And it's just not the same as what everybody else's 9 to 5 is. So you can't compare it to that. So when Durant spits in the face of what we deem as the hierarchy of basketball and say, wait a minute, you're too good of a player to want to go join up with that team, it carries some weight. So if he wins 2 or 3 titles, you know what I mean? We're never going to put Kevin Durant quite on that level. That's why Kobe Bryant drove Shaq out of town, because Kobe knew that in order to get to the level that he wanted to get to, he had to win rings with Shaq off the roster because nobody would take him seriously in the pantheon of great players if he only had rings with Shaq.
See, all right. You hit on a couple things.
I tend to do that. I don't know. Sorry.
Like a couple things, I said that's more because he didn't like the fact that Shaq wasn't all basketball. He didn't live, breathe, and eat.
I think that's true also. Yeah, I would agree with that as well.
And I could see the way that Kobe is built, because I'm kind of built like Kobe too. If you're not all about it, it's like I can't stand being around you. I can't work with you. Like if I had to come to work and see you, I just put my head down like this again. And you just gotta go about your day. Now, you are kind of correct when you say it's not like everybody's 9 to 5. But I will say once you get to a certain point in your career, you will be recruited the way LeBron was. If you really are one of the best at your job, it might not be the best burger flipper, but if you're a top like chef, then of course you're going to have all type of restaurants trying to recruit you to get you to come to be the head chef in Miami, to get you to be the head chef in Las Vegas. So there are a lot of parallels when it comes to the thing that LeBron was going through. Because if you feel like, and I guess I'll just be the chef analogy down to them, but if you feel like the head chef in charge is putting out some of the worst food and it's not really matching up, and y'all doing pretty good, but your reviews ain't hitting, the people ain't really excited about it like that, people really know your name, or people inside the industry respect you, you're like, well, you get an offer to say, hey, you come right here, you man, you can do what you need to do, and we're going to supply you with the best talent, and we're going to do everything that you need so you can, be the number one chef out here. You can be like, I'm going to that restaurant. And that's all LeBron did. He looked at where he was at in the situation, and even though, like, basically he was there from jump, like, basically he would say, like, a chef fresh out of school. And he was real loyal because he learned, he grew, and all that different stuff, but the fact of the matter is he had an opportunity to, go somewhere with a better infrastructure. Because what happened before LeBron came and what happened after LeBron left? Losers. And, I mean, you can't be mad at him for that.
Well, I can. I can. Well, here's what I'll say in response to that. So the chef analogy, I see what you're saying, except for the fact that Durant was the head chef at that restaurant, right? He was the number one guy. So if the reviews aren't hitting like they should be, he's probably the number one person you want to look at and say, well, maybe we got to change up something, or maybe we need a better lead chef, or that lead chef needs to improve because he was the man there. It's not like he was the number 2 or number 3 guy in Oklahoma City. He was always viewed by most people as the guy there. So if they're not winning championships and he's the guy, then he has to shoulder the majority of the burden of that blame. You know what I'm saying? So that's why it's like, he can leave and go join up with another crew if he wants to, but I don't know that it's fair to say that the rest of the crew around him was bringing him down. He's supposed to be elevating them up if he's that good. So that's one thing. And as far as LeBron is concerned, excuse me, as it relates to LeBron, man, listen, the thing that people don't understand about why LeBron left Cleveland the first time, and I've said this 1,000 times, and I'll say it briefly here, but LeBron put the Cavs on a clock. You know what I'm saying? So LeBron said, hey, when he signed his extension in 06, he said, I'm signing a 3-year extension and I'll have an option to do what I want to do. I'm not signing a 5-year extension. That put the whole world on notice that the Cavs basically had that last year of his current deal plus the 3-year extension to win a title. And he put everybody on a clock. And when he put everybody on the clock, he forced the organization to function as though there's a ticking time bomb waiting to go off behind them. And it forces teammates to play with that pressure under them as well, knowing that there's a ticking time bomb ready to go off.
But see, the thing about that is, it's like, that doesn't mean go get Antoine Jameson. Like,
everybody thought Antoine Jameson was the right move at the time, and I don't think they made any moves without LeBron co-signing them. Isn't that fair to say?
They never have. They never made any move without LeBron co-signing it. So
LeBron would know what type of move he needed to co-sign. He didn't really learn that until he got to Miami.
Right. Isn't that convenient? So when LeBron gets to Miami, he's waiting at the airport trying to recruit free agents to come down. He didn't do that when he was in Cleveland. It's not the Cavs' fault. The Cavs did everything that they could do. They created cap space in 2005. In 2005, they went after Michael Redd was the first option. Michael Redd turned him down. Ray Allen was the second option. Ray Allen turned him down. Joe Johnson was the third option. Joe Johnson turned him down. And they had to settle for Larry Hughes, and they still got to the finals. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't – maybe had LeBron done a better job recruiting, maybe they would have had somebody to come play with him in Cleveland rather than like when he goes down to Miami and he's waving dudes in at the airport holding up the sign with their name on it. You know what I'm saying? Talking about Ray Allen, Shane Battier, come play with me. He didn't do that in Cleveland. He was focused on his free agency. That's why he never quieted the speculation about it until halfway through the 2010 season. He finally said, I'm not talking about free agency until the summer anymore. But he kept egging that entire process on from the beginning. He knew exactly what he was doing the whole time because I thought that he was planning his exit for quite a while. You know what I'm saying? And it's his prerogative to leave if he wants to leave, but it wasn't the organization's fault that they couldn't get the talent that he wanted around him. He was to blame for that. Even when in 2009 they had cap space to go out and get Trevor Ariza. Ariza called LeBron and said, I'm going to sign with y'all, but I need to know, are you sticking around? Because I don't want to sign there long term and then you bounce and then I'm just there on this team. And LeBron was non-committal. And supposedly the same thing happened with Ron Artest. The Cavs was close to getting Ron Artest, and the same thing happened. So by him being non-committal, it made other free agents non-committal. So all of the moves that the organization made, some of them were hasty moves, but they were done because LeBron put them in that position that they had no choice. They had to make those moves. They had to improve the roster. That's why they made the big deadline deal in 08, and they got Ben Wallace and Delonte and Wally Zerbiak and them and Joe Smith. They had to make that move because they knew if they didn't do something, LeBron's going to leave, right? So they had to do what they had to do. But the players knew in the back of their mind that, hey, man, if we screw up, LeBron's going to bounce. Mo Williams even said that on the Believe Land special. So to me, LeBron was as responsible as anybody else for the Cavs' failures as far as not getting to more championships during his first tenure with the team. And ultimately, his reason for leaving was that the team didn't have enough success. But he was the main reason that they couldn't do that. He hamstrung the franchise. They couldn't operate freely knowing that LeBron was going to leave and that sword was hanging over them the whole time. You see what I'm saying? I'm done ranting. I'm done. I know I said a lot, but I'm just saying, like, I get annoyed when people don't know that part of the story, or they choose to ignore it because they want to trash the Cleveland franchise. And it's like the Cavs were in a tough spot. Like, what did you want them to do? Like, they tried to sign better players. The players turned them down. Like, that's all they can do. They made the cap space. They turned them down, but what you want them to do?
Do you agree with what some of the stuff he's saying, or a lot of it?
I mean, it comes down to players want to make money and win basketball games. And right now, like I was saying it on the last Orange and Blueprint podcast, this is basically and this was pre-Kevin Durant switching teams. I was like, this is a Warriors-Cavaliers world we live in. Those are, like, at that time, those two appeared to be the best teams. I blindly, I would pick them to match up in the finals again next year. And if that's something that is at least a logical kind of step, and you're Kevin Durant and you want to be a rich basketball player who is in the title hunt every year, the best way to achieve both of those goals is to take your talents to Oakland or to Cleveland. And he chose Oakland. I don't blame him. It just kind of, those are the two things that they want to do as professional basketball players with this competitive spirit, blah, 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 blah. I think LeBron did the same thing. LeBron wants to make all the money and win all the rings. To do that the first time, it meant leaving Cleveland. It meant, like Justin said, putting Cleveland on the clock, trying to force them to do all these miraculous things that they weren't going to be able to do without him agreeing to be there. But that was his last bargaining chip. So it's a matter of, he said, all right, I'm bouncing. I'm getting my boy from Toronto, and we're going to go play in Florida, live it up, go through those college years, as he used to put it. And now, because of Cleveland having just incredible luck with getting first picks in the draft, they have a team that was ready to have a LeBron piece added and fulfill his PR equal opposite for the decision to go back to Cleveland, win a title there with his promise thing or whatever. I don't believe for a second that if Cleveland was a bad team, he would have gone back to Cleveland after Miami. I believe he was leaving there because they weren't going to be a team that's going to put him back in the title hunt with the level of effort that he would be able to sustain. But Cleveland made itself a viable option. He went back home, made his promise, had to go through the finals, had his soldiers get hurt, and then he win the title this year. It's all about making money and winning rings. So when it comes down to it, all of the other intangible things that we talked about that you can't measure, loyalty is the top one. And you can't have that and also do those first two goals all the time. So, it is what it is. Kevin Durant did what he wanted to do to win title and make money. LeBron did what he wanted to do to win titles and make money. And everything else after that is cake at this point.
Well, I'm saying this, we're going to wrap it up. We've been going on for about an hour. I know my wife's about to walk in any minute now. So I'm trying to be her before she get home. But as you said, it's kind of true. But I think about the whole LeBron, Cleveland to Miami, back to Cleveland. I see it in a light as you worked at one place. You told them how long you was going to be here. It wasn't like it was a secret. Y'all agreed to a 3-year contract. So is it not Cleveland's responsibility to say, well, even if LeBron doesn't say it, it's implied that LeBron can leave in 3 years. So why shouldn't you have a 3-year plan to make sure LeBron stays? Now, of course, one major thing is it's Cleveland. So we're not going to get everybody to just say, Cleveland. Nobody's getting excited to go there as far as the free agent goes. The next thing is, you're making all these different trades, bringing in dudes like Devontae Weston, you know about his character. And that's the type of thing that you look at. It's like you're doing things just to do them instead of being a lot more strategic about who and what type of ball that you play. It never really developed into a scheme. It never really looked at like, this is the way the Cavs play. It was just like, all right, LeBron, do what you do. We just going to run out for dudes with you and just hope they can do enough to help the rest of the game. And to me, I think that's why he sought what was in Miami, because for one, he had a little bit more control over the situation. And I think that gives him more incentive to even try harder to get people to come to Miami, because it was more about proving what he could do. He was like, well, I'm going to do this little startup thing. I need to recruit some guys to help me here. In Cleveland, he was inserted, and it was the company's job to do the recruiting. He decided, I'm going to change, I'm going here, and man, if I'm going to do this, I need to call up some of these people out there that do some of these things, I need somebody like Shane Battier to bring that IQ and bring that tough defense and stuff like that. I need Mike Miller to come in and give me some shooting confidence. And to me, I just think that became more important when he went to Miami, because he had something really to prove as far as why he made the decision that he did. And going back to Cleveland, that was basically a power play. I mean, we all talked about LeBron being we've seen everything that's happened. As soon as it got going, Deion Waiters, get them up out of there. And you just look at what they become, it's all about LeBron. And he would have never got that in Miami. I think they could have probably went back to the championship in Miami, but it wouldn't have looked the same, and it probably wouldn't have been as pretty. But that's because it's LeBron. LeBron just brings the championship bounds wherever he goes. It don't really have nothing to do with Miami in that case. But him coming back to Cleveland, it gave him a chance to look at what he needed to do during the season, which is stay afloat. All right, Kyrie, I need you to go get some buckets. You got them young legs. I'm sitting here, and I'm going to watch you put up 50. I'm going to chill. And that was really more strategically appealing to LeBron as he ages, and also setting up roots to basically be the king of all Ohio. So whenever y'all ready to make him governor, he already going to be there in his big ass house.
That's true. I mean, there's phones in Cleveland too. The phones work in Cleveland. I know, because I lived there for over 20-some years. Like, there's phones there, so he could have called up his boys and told them to come play with him in Cleveland too, but he didn't. You know what I'm saying? He wanted to run down to Miami and team up with Wade and them. So, like, I don't know. Like, I just find it convenient that he was able to have this epiphany that they should do a little recruiting as soon as he left Cleveland, but he wasn't willing to do that when he was with Cleveland the first go around. But you see that the Cavaliers were still able to attract free agents in Cleveland after he came back. I mean, he was there, and that was the biggest selling point. You know what I'm saying? They got Kevin Love in the trade, but then Kevin Love was a free agent. Kevin Love re-signed in a hurry. When LeBron first got there, Kyrie Irving was a free agent too, and Kyrie Irving re-signed. In fact, Kyrie Irving re-signed 5 years before LeBron came back. So, I mean, like, there's some people like Cleveland. Some people don't mind moving to Cleveland or living in Cleveland. It's not the most glamorous destination. I understand that, but, you know, I mean, I just don't look at it as they can't attract free agents. Like, I think they could have attracted some free agents back during his first stint had he been more committed to the organization. But he was non-committal at that time, which is his prerogative. But the flip side is the team is not going to be able to operate and function like they should because they don't know. It's just like down in Oklahoma City right now. They don't know what's going to happen with Russell Westbrook now that Durant's gone. So now they may have to trade Westbrook. You know what I'm saying? They just don't know. It's up in the air right now because they can't get Westbrook to commit now because Durant's gone. So, I mean, there's no way they could get any other big name free agents to come down to Oklahoma City now because they don't even know if Westbrook's going to be there. You know what I'm saying? So I just think that, and let me put it this way. I'm happy that it all worked out for Cleveland. That's what I'm happy about.
See, I'm glad you brought up Oklahoma City because it's the perfect parallel to what Cleveland was doing. If you look at the way that Oklahoma City basically retools every year, they look to be in better shape to make a run every time after that. None of those times previously, when you looked at the way Cleveland was retooling, you was like, man, they look like they could show them win the championship.
I don't know, man. They won 66 games in 2009, and they won like 62 games in 2010. They went from making that big trade that I mentioned the year after they went to the finals, halfway through the season in 2008, they made that big trade to bring in those four guys. Then they ended up in the following year, they brought in Mo Williams. And the following year, they brought in now, granted, these ain't big name superstars or whatever, but they're still tweaking the roster to the point that people thought that they was going to get there. The following year, they brought in Shaq, and then they traded for Jameson. You know what I'm saying? So, like, those moves didn't end up working out. You know, it's easy to sit here, you know, on Monday morning and be like, yeah, them moves was dumb. But, like, at the time, everybody had the Cavs in the finals, didn't they? Back then? They did.
But you had the Cavs in the finals because of LeBron.
Sure.
Shaq was watched two teams before that. You know, that's what I'm talking about. Cleveland was bringing in people who were past their prime and had no business even trying to really help LeBron win a championship. If you looked at
who were they going to bring in at that time, though? Who were they going to bring in at that time? Especially with seeing how the whole league wanted LeBron to leave because that meant that they had a shot at getting him. So it didn't make sense for them to try to help out the Cavs. Oh, yeah, and let me give you my 25-year-old all-star, Cleveland. Yeah, go ahead and take him. No, we had to get those older ball players, but those older ball players knew how to win in the postseason. So, I mean, it made sense for us to try to bring those guys in.
But see, the thing about it is, it's like if you look at the way Cleveland has it set up. So you like comparing it to Miami. Of course, everybody would rather live in Miami, so it really doesn't take that much convincing for you to come there or be like, well, I'll take my chances there. But if you look at Cleveland outside of like the living situation, you look at every time they wanted to add a piece, it's always somebody who was past their prime or really didn't fit to what LeBron needed for them to succeed. And if you look at what Oklahoma City was doing, regardless if Durant was coming back or not, picking up Oladipo, picking up Sabonis, like those are going to be contributors that will actually make Oklahoma City better, regardless if you got Kevin Durant or not. And that's the point I'm trying to say is if you were to take LeBron off that team and after they made those trades, they would still look like trash.
I just think that I don't think they made any of those moves without, like I said, LeBron's consent. You know what I'm saying?
Of course, he's going to give consent because, like I said, it's like you don't know. This was his first 8 years in the NBA. He had never really been in a position to really, be under a coach that had a certain system or been led by an organization or somebody that would be like, well, this is the best thing for us. He's going to just go with it. The dude was out of high school at the time. So it's like, well, yeah, if you like that dude's pretty good. I seen him, I played against him. That's all he got. It's like, well, yeah, I think he's pretty good. And he's going to sign off on it. It's different now.
I think if the Cavs, like I said, the Cavs tried to bring 2005 Ray Allen into the fold. Like if the Cavs would have landed 2005 Ray Allen, will we be having a different conversation? Like they cleared the cap space. They did what they needed to do. They tried to get Tom Izzo to coach the team. Maybe if Tom Izzo coaches the team, there's a different outcome. They tried to supposedly get John Calipari to coach the team. But maybe there's a different outcome if they get John Calipari. Like they tried to make moves to appease, people that look at it like you look at it. You know what I'm saying? I think if they would have landed Michael Redd, if they would have landed Ray Allen, if they would have landed Tom Izzo, maybe there's a different thing. But you can't get everybody you want. You know what I'm saying? They turned Cleveland down. So, I'm saying Cleveland's hands was tied a little bit. But the biggest reason they turned Cleveland down, I think, is because LeBron said, I might not be here in 3 years or 2 years or 1 year. So how are they supposed to build a team like that? You can't build a team like that when your star player is not committed to the team. That's backwards. You know what I'm saying? You can't do it that way.
3 years though. 3 whole years.
That's not that long of a time. I don't think that's a long time.
He went back. He just went back to Cleveland. And they won the chip in 2 years.
They already had.
This is still early on LeBron, though. This is still early LeBron, but it's almost a chicken and egg kind of situation because LeBron's not going to commit unless at the time it seemed like they were proving they're going to get him to a championship. Cleveland can only do so many moves until they know that LeBron's going to be there for a long time. And like he was saying, 3 years isn't terribly long in the NBA to say, okay, players X, Y, and Z come here and play with LeBron. You might get one of those players, but you do have to overcome the living in Cleveland versus other places people can go versus other money people can get somewhere else. And then on top of that, your biggest selling point is in fact playing with LeBron. But if LeBron's not going to be there, you only really have half of your biggest attracting piece. Like your bait is basically cut in half. Like you can play with LeBron for a little bit. Which, I mean, if it was the three of us, we would probably jump at the chance to play with LeBron for an afternoon because it will be dope. But it's like if it's it goes back to wanting to win rings and wanting to make money. If you're going to Cleveland from somewhere else, you're probably not making all the money and you're trying to get the ring and you may not get in that first chance. You may get in that second one, but if something happens, you don't. That third time may be your last time to play with LeBron. So I think that kind of hamstrung the team a little bit. But then again, it's LeBron's prerogative to say, I'm not going to commit to, the rest of my life with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think it was a situation where LeBron could have done things different. If he would have, the Cavaliers may have done things different, or it could have been LeBron stuck on a bad Cleveland team forever and being miserable. So, I mean, it turned out the way it turned out. I'm not sure how Cleveland could have done much better.
I don't know either. And the Cavs had a deal in place to get Amari Stoudemire, and Phoenix said no at the 11th hour. So that was right. That was instead, and that's how they ended up getting Jameson, was because they had to deal with Stoudemire, and that deal fell apart at the end. So, like, I don't, what I'm saying? I'm not saying that the Cleveland's management was flawless in those years. Don't get me wrong, but You know what I'm saying? Like the Oklahoma City comparison is a little different because when Durant signed back in 2010, he signed like the full extension. He signed like the entire length of the contract that he could. He signed the maximum amount of years. And LeBron didn't do that. And that put the whole world on notice that the best player in the league might be leaving in a couple of years. I don't think the rest of the league is going to do all that they can do to necessarily help the Cavs in that scenario.
Well, I don't think you're right about that. It's not in the best interest of anybody to help the Cavaliers out. But the thing about it is, it's all about your front office making subsequent moves that will help get you into championship position. Like if you look at like what Boston is doing right now, you know, they got good players, they got picks, and they got a great coach. And all they're doing is just lining everything up. So when the time comes, they can make a move. If you look at what the Cavaliers was doing, they was just like, we got to do something. LeBron thinking about leaving, we just got to do something. Not thinking about, well, we might be able to, you know, front load some contracts, maybe make them 3 year, maybe 2 year with player options in the second or third year. You know, looking at some of these creative ways to, you know, use your cap space and, you know, use picks and just, it's so many things that they probably could have tried to do, but they just couldn't pull them off because they were in win now mode, but not really being strategic about it, almost like Cleveland was last year. I don't think they ever would have gave 2 first-round picks for Mozgov knowing that he wasn't ever going to play for them again. You know, but that seems to me like the most Cleveland shit that really goes down is when they make moves like that. So that's all I'm going to say. It's like you can't say a lot about LeBron being non-committal, but it's like you said, Anthony, it's a chicken in the egg thing, and the GM, I mean, yeah, the whole front office really got to bring it. So that's really it. It's like my wife is getting here, so I guess that'll be the last word. Y'all got anything else y'all want to promote before we get up out of here?
I'll jump in. You know, check out the whenever I come out with the next Orange and Blueprint podcast, and you know, just look out for everything coming down the pipeline from the Hip Hop Sports Report.
All right. Yeah, word up, man. Hip Hop Sports Report. We're always doing big things. We got some big plans for the summer still. We got Anthony's got an NFL piece coming out real soon, so be on the lookout for that. We're still doing the tail of the tape, breaking down different rap albums that have come out of late. We still got NBA free agency reaction stuff. We still got the preseason podcast of the year popping off, and we're going to be looking at some more hip hop stuff we got planned together. I don't want to give it away just yet, but we're going to do something special surrounding hip hop here in the next few weeks as it relates to the history of hip hop and what's happening this year. So we got a lot to talk about Hip Hop Sports Report, man. So we appreciate all the love, all the followers that we get. And of course, we appreciate you, CL. Thanks for setting this up and making sure that we was a part of it.
No doubt, man. I know we went super long.
Yeah, we did.
So I don't know. I'm probably like, when I get finished with it, I'm gonna download it and I'll probably like bust it up in a couple parts because we did a little bit more than I even put on the description of it.
That's because I got carried away talking about the Cavs, man. You can't just take shots at the Cavs front office and expect me to not stand up for us. You know what I'm saying? I had to say something.
I give you that. But
let's trash the Atlanta Hawks next time.
Oh yeah, we could do that too. Let's not forget about trashing Michael Jordan.
That ain't my team, no way. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know, man. There's so many different things, but we might have to make this black thing something we do on a regular. I don't know if it be every week, every other week, something. But definitely a lot of fun. Y'all can get at me at the Rundown South on Twitter, therundown.com podcast. You know, look for both of them on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud. You on SoundCloud? I want to just say that.
We're not on SoundCloud yet, but we're working on that too. But like, there's a SoundCloud page that's out there, so you can actually go find us on SoundCloud and listen to a couple podcasts that's out there. But we're not on there recurring just yet. So what?
You got the sampler on. You got the sampler
exactly. We got the sampler popping right now.
That's what I call. I'm not ready to pay for SoundCloud.
That's pretty much what it is. Not when you don't have to pay for iTunes and Stitcher. So we on iTunes and Stitcher, and you can of course find us on Facebook at HHS Report and Twitter.com/HHS Report.
No doubt. And y'all can get all that information, the rundown HHSR.com. And y'all can link up with all of us, follow us all on Twitter. And we out here. Peace.
Peace.
All right, bet.